board directors, superintendent, community, staff, and leadership. My name is David Montes de Oca with Quality Community School Development. Specifically, I wanted to provide some direct information related to two areas that have questions that have been posed by family and community in this board, specifically related to the transition of students and families as a result of decision-making that may take place this evening on behalf of the board. Specifically, we want to identify that in the case that the board should decide to approve the superintendent's resolution, and in the case that any school would experience a school closure, each school would be assigned a transition coordinator. That transition coordinator's role and responsibility is to focus primarily on the support of students and families in a process to support their ability to become well-informed about alternative school options. We've been working recently with the Alameda County Health Department to think critically about how to ensure that we are engaging families in a way that provides them critical information about transportation, about safety, about specific health needs that students may need, and how to think critically about identifying alternative school options. We are planning to ensure that families are well informed through a series of activities during the month of November and December. Families will have the opportunity to both visit schools. We'll be working together to provide bus tours as needed. There'll be informational sessions at their local school sites to receive information directly from representatives from schools, as well as providing an opportunity to make sure that families are aware of all the supports and services that are available. The expectation is that we will hold a separate enrollment process to prioritize all students prior to the district-wide enrollment process. The goal is to ensure that, in particular, for students seeking spaces in grades 1 through 5, which is primarily those grades that will be impacted next year, that there's an opportunity to prioritize those students who are impacted by school closure. The vast majority of enrollment that happens district-wide in primary school is at kindergarten. What we've been able to do is to evaluate both preliminary projections as to enrollment in all schools for next year, and we've been able to evaluate data that tells us how many students over the last 5 years typically transition in each of our schools from one grade to the next. And that data helps to provide for us an estimated number of available seats in grades 1 through 5. We expect to provide that information to all families so that they have a very clear picture of what opportunities are available, and making sure that we have the opportunity to make sure that every available seat at every school in each of these grades is made available for consideration for families. Families will be invited to then ultimately in December submit their top 4 preferences for schools to attend. Our expectation is that, unless impossible, we will make sure that every family has access to a seat in at least one of their top 4 preferences. In the case that there is a situation where a family is not able to receive at least one of their preferred seats in top 4 preferences, families will at least receive an assignment in the nearest higher performing school than the students previously attended. There will then be opportunity for appeal at 2 stages, both during the district-wide enrollment process that will ensue in January and subsequently in late February if they are still not satisfied with the alternative option. We are going to be collaborating to make sure that this is a process that is handled manually and directly with families in dialogue through the support of our transition coordinators at each site. In the case that the board makes a decision regarding school closure this evening, and there are specific needs that many of our families we anticipate will have specific to transportation, to date, the work has been done to begin to evaluate specifically what kinds of supports can be provided both through public transportation, as we're working with Jim Lair, the superintendent of AC Transit, to discuss ensuring that we can develop a strategy for having adequate bus lines as needed, developing a plan, particularly looking around our program improvement funds and other resources that can be made available specific to transportation for students, as is the case that all schools recommended for closure currently are program improvement schools, but otherwise identifying additional funds as needed if bus passes are required. We're working in collaboration with Stephanie Perry of the Oakland Police Department, who is overseeing the Crossing Guards program, to ensure that we can identify the resource of crossing guards as needed depending on the particular routes that families will necessarily need to utilize. And we're currently developing a vision for what it may look like if necessary to provide shuttle service, if that proves to be the most optimal way of ensuring that families with the greatest need around transportation can receive support and service. What we understand about supporting families in transportation is that it ultimately requires us to understand deeply what that need is. So the primary role, in addition, for these transition coordinators is to work directly with individual families around these types of needs, and we have specific support from the Alameda County Health Department to work together with these transition coordinators around issues of transportation safety and support.